Virtue or vanity, the choice that shapes your soul. Imagine standing at a crossroads. On your left, a road paved with gold, lined with statues and applauding crowds. Every step feels easy, every glance from others feeds your pride, every word of flattery builds your illusion of worth. This is the road of vanity. On your right, a quieter path. No applause, no golden promises. Just the weight of responsibility, the demand of discipline, the call to live with integrity even when no one is watching. This is the road of virtue. Which path do you take? Most people, without pausing to reflect, drift toward vanity. It is louder, more dazzling. It feels rewarding in the moment. But the Stoics remind us, beneath its glitter, vanity is hollow. It steals your freedom. It shapes your soul into something fragile, something dependent on the opinions of others. Virtue, though harder, builds a fortress within. It shapes your soul into something eternal, unshakable, and free. Every day you are faced with this same choice. The question is not abstract. It happens in the way you speak to others, the decisions you make when no one is looking, how you respond to praise, how you react to criticism. Do you crave the illusion of importance, or do you anchor yourself in what is good, just, and true? This is the hidden battle in every soul. You are not exempt. I am not exempt. And the truth is, your destiny is being decided not in one great dramatic moment, but in the quiet choices you make today. Why does this matter? Because the choice between virtue and vanity is the choice between freedom and slavery. Vanity makes you a servant to applause, to possessions, to reputation. It places your happiness in the hands of strangers. Virtue frees you from those chains. It gives you mastery over yourself, harmony with reason, and peace with the nature of things. The Stoics taught that nothing outside of us is truly good or truly bad. It is our own character that defines our fate. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, sat on the most powerful throne in the world, yet he constantly reminded himself not to be seduced by vanity. He wrote in his journal that fame is empty, that praise is smoke, that the opinions of others vanish like dust in the wind. What mattered was whether his soul was aligned with virtue. Seneca declared that fortune is fickle, but virtue is stronger than fortune. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that even when the body is chained, the mind can remain free if it chooses virtue. Virtue and vanity are not just ideas, they are forces that shape your life. Vanity tempts you with the temporary, the applause that fades, the riches that can be taken away, the image that must be constantly defended. Virtue roots you in the eternal. It is not concerned with how you are seen, but with who you truly are, and that is why this choice defines your soul. To live for vanity is to build your house on shifting sand. To live for virtue is to build upon rock where no storm can destroy it. You and I are not emperors, not philosophers by profession, but the struggle is the same. Every person, whether ruler or servant, rich or poor, faces this crossroads. The Stoics believed that the true worth of a life is not measured by applause, wealth, or fame, but by the quality of the soul. And the soul is shaped every time you decide between the hollow promise of vanity and the solid strength of virtue. This journey we are about to walk together is not about abstract philosophy. It is about the deepest questions of life. What are you living for? Whose approval do you seek? What kind of soul are you shaping with your choices? So let us continue. Let us unmask vanity and see it for what it truly is. Let us understand virtue not as some lofty ideal, but as the foundation of freedom and peace. And most importantly, let us discover how to choose wisely, so that when your life is weighed in the balance, it will not be found wanting, but shining with the strength of virtue. For in the end, the world can take everything from you, your wealth, your health, your status, but the one thing no one can strip from you is the character you choose to build. That is your soul. That is your destiny. That is the choice before you, virtue or vanity. Vanity always wears a mask. It presents itself as beauty, success, importance, and honor. It whispers in your ear, if only they see you, if only they admire you, then you will matter. And so you chase after appearances, polishing your image like a mirror that must never show a crack. You buy what you don't need to impress those you don't love. You measure your value by the applause of strangers, by the number of people who look your way, by the symbols stitched onto your clothing or carved into your possessions. It is the illusion of worth without substance, the mask of greatness without greatness itself. The Stoics warned against this trap because vanity feeds on the external, on things beyond your control. One day you are praised, the next day forgotten. Today you are admired for your wealth, tomorrow envied for the same reason. Public opinion is a wind that changes direction with no warning. To build your worth upon it is to stand on shifting sand. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." He meant that if you live by virtue, people may not always admire you because true virtue often refuses to flatter or conform. Vanity, however, always conforms. It asks not, "What is right?" but "What will make me look good?" Look at the emperors of Rome. Nero draped himself in gold, paraded through the streets with splendor, built statues to his own glory. His name is remembered not for greatness, but for cruelty and madness. Contrast him with Cato, who walked barefoot through the Senate, wore simple garments, and refused bribes. He was mocked by many in his time, yet his name has endured as a symbol of integrity and courage. Vanity always promises permanence, but delivers only dust. Virtue, though quieter, endures beyond the grave. In our age, vanity hides behind screens. It disguises itself as likes and followers, as curated images of perfect lives. We tell ourselves we are building influence, but often we are only building a mask that demands constant maintenance. Behind that mask, many are hollow, anxious, afraid that the applause will stop. The Stoic asks, what happens when the mask is removed? Who are you when no one is watching? If the answer is emptiness, then vanity has consumed you. The danger of vanity is not only that it distracts you from virtue, it reshapes your soul. When you live for appearances, you lose sight of truth. When you live for applause, you become dependent on the crowd. And the crowd, like fortune, cannot be trusted. Vanity is like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. You seek more praise, more validation, more recognition, and yet it never fills you. Only virtue satisfies because it is rooted in what is eternal, not in what fades. But why do we fall for vanity at all, if it is so hollow? Why does it have such power over us? The answer lies deeper, in the soil of fear and insecurity from which vanity grows. At the root of vanity is fear, the fear of being invisible, the fear of being forgotten, the fear of being insignificant in the vast sweep of time. Every human feels this fear. We know deep within that life is short, that we are fragile, that the world is vast, and our names may vanish with the turning of a generation. And so, to defend ourselves against this truth, we grasp at vanity. We think, if only I am admired, if only I am remembered, then I will matter. Vanity is an escape from the terror of insignificance. It is also born of insecurity. We doubt our worth, so we look for it in the eyes of others. We fear our own mortality, so we chase symbols of permanence, monuments, titles, fame. But all of these are shadows. The applause of others cannot silence the voice within that asks, "Who are you really?" The statues will crumble, the titles will fade, and the name written in stone will one day be dust. What remains is the soul, stripped bare. Vanity feeds the fear. Virtue silences it. Modern life amplifies these fears. Social media, advertising, and competition constantly tell us we are not enough unless we prove ourselves through images, possessions, or accolades. We are lured into endless comparison, measuring our lives against the curated illusions of others. And so the cycle of vanity spins faster, leaving us emptier. The Stoics saw this same cycle in Rome, though without screens. They knew that the crowds would cheer today and scorn tomorrow. They saw men selling their integrity to be praised, women sacrificing their peace to be admired, rulers destroying their souls to be feared. The stage is different today, but the play is the same. The remedy, the Stoics taught, is to recognize the truth. Vanity is dependence on what lies beyond our control, and what lies beyond our control cannot define us. Epictetus asked, "When you want to delight yourself, do you delight in praise? Then you are putting your joy in the hands of another." Instead, we must turn inward. True worth comes not from applause, but from alignment with reason, with nature, with virtue. Only then are we free from the chains of fear and insecurity. So when vanity whispers in your ear, remember its root. It is not strength, but fear. It is not confidence, but insecurity. To give in to vanity is to surrender your soul to what is weakest in you. To choose virtue is to stand in courage, to face your mortality, and to say, "My worth is not borrowed from the crowd. It is built within me, and no one can take it away." Virtue, the Stoics taught, is the only true good. All else, wealth, reputation, health, even life itself, is indifferent compared to the state of the soul. Virtue is the inner fortress, unassailable by fortune, unshaken by the judgments of others. When everything external is stripped away, what remains is the core of your being, and that core must be strong. Vanity relies on the eyes of others. Virtue relies only on the clarity of reason. Vanity is fragile, crumbling at the first blow of criticism. Virtue is steady, enduring storms without breaking. What is virtue? To the Stoics, it was not a vague moral concept, but the alignment of human reason with the order of nature. It was living in harmony with what is rational, just, and true. A virtuous person is not enslaved by passions, not deceived by illusions, not seduced by applause. Instead, they act according to principle, whether or not the world approves. This is why Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, reminded himself in his private journal not to be consumed by what others thought of him. He knew that fame is fleeting, but character is eternal. He did not want to rule for vanity, but to live for virtue. Virtue is the answer to every test. When fortune strikes with loss, it is virtue that steadies the heart. When power tempts with corruption, it is virtue that holds the line. When fear rises in the face of danger, it is virtue that gives courage. Vanity fails in these moments because it looks outward. Virtue endures because it looks inward. To live in virtue is to be free. Free from dependence, free from fear, free from the endless chase for approval. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues as the foundation of a good life: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These were not ideals to be admired from afar, but disciplines to be practiced daily. They are the pillars of the inner fortress, the unshakable supports that hold the soul upright against chaos and temptation. Wisdom is the first pillar. It is the ability to see clearly what is within your control and what is not, to distinguish between appearance and reality, between fleeting desires and true goods. Wisdom is the lamp that guides all other virtues. Without wisdom, courage becomes recklessness, justice becomes blind, temperance becomes weakness. The wise person does not waste life chasing vanity because they know its emptiness. They place their energy only where it matters, on shaping their own soul. Courage is the second pillar. It is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Courage is the willingness to endure pain, loss, or danger in the pursuit of what is right. It is the resolve to stand firm when vanity tempts you to compromise. Vanity fears the crowd's disapproval. Courage disregards it. Vanity trembles at loss. Courage accepts it. Vanity lives in hiding. Courage lives in truth. The Stoics taught that a life without courage is not life at all, for fear imprisons the soul more than chains ever could. Justice is the third pillar. To live justly is to treat others with fairness, to honor your duties, to act in harmony with the good of the whole. Justice refuses to exploit or deceive, even when vanity urges it as a path to gain. Vanity seeks advantage at the cost of others. Justice seeks harmony, even at personal cost. For the Stoics, justice was not optional. It was the essence of humanity itself. A person who lives unjustly, no matter their wealth or fame, lives against nature and corrupts their soul. Temperance is the fourth pillar. It is self-mastery, the ability to govern desires rather than be governed by them. Temperance does not mean denying all pleasure, but refusing to be enslaved by it. It is the strength to say no when vanity whispers yes, the discipline to choose simplicity over excess, integrity over indulgence. Vanity feeds on appetite, but appetite never ends. Temperance liberates, for the one who masters himself is freer than any king. Together, these four virtues form the unshakable structure of the soul. They are not ornaments, but armor. They do not glitter like vanity, but they shield the spirit in every storm. Wisdom guides your path, courage strengthens your steps, justice aligns your heart with the good, temperance disciplines your desires. With these, a person cannot be destroyed, no matter what fortune brings. And so we see the contrast. Vanity promises freedom, but enslaves. Virtue requires discipline, but liberates. Vanity seeks to be admired, but collapses when ignored. Virtue stands silent, yet leaves a legacy that echoes through time. The choice is before us every day. Will you strengthen your fortress with these four pillars? Or will you decorate the mask of vanity that eventually crumbles into dust? Vanity is a prison, though at first it feels like a palace. Its walls are adorned with praise, its floors paved with recognition, its ceilings painted with admiration. You walk through its halls believing yourself free because everywhere you turn, someone is applauding you, nodding in approval, feeding the image you wish to project. But the moment the applause fades, the palace reveals itself as a cage. For what are you without their eyes upon you? What are you without the approval you crave? Vanity holds its prisoners with invisible chains. You are bound to the shifting winds of opinion, enslaved to the moods of others, dependent on their recognition for your sense of worth. The cost of this slavery is exhaustion. To live for vanity is to live in constant performance. You cannot rest because your worth depends on the next display, the next proof, the next applause. You cannot be honest because honesty may risk your image. You cannot be free because freedom might mean being misunderstood. The Stoics knew this well. Seneca wrote that he pitied those who sought honor in the eyes of others, for such honor is fickle and vanishes at the whim of the crowd. The man who lives by applause dies by silence. The instability of public opinion makes vanity a cruel master. Today the crowd praises you. Tomorrow it condemns you. The same hands that raise statues will topple them. The same mouths that sing your praises will spit your name in scorn. To depend on such masters is to live in fear. Vanity promises comfort, but gives only anxiety. Its prison bars are not of iron, but of desire. The desire to be seen, admired, remembered, and the more you desire it, the tighter the chains become. The way out of this prison is to recognize its cost. Vanity consumes your peace, corrodes your character, and leaves you hollow. It takes what is most precious, your soul, and trades it for smoke. The Stoics remind us you cannot be free while you depend on the approval of others. True freedom is to live by principle, not applause. To measure yourself by virtue, not vanity. Only then do the prison doors open, and only then can the soul breathe. If vanity is a prison, then virtue is freedom. Virtue does not need applause because it is complete in itself. The reward of virtue is not external recognition, but internal strength. The Stoics taught that virtue is its own reward, and nothing else need be added. When you act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, you already possess the highest good. The world may praise you or scorn you, but it cannot touch the fortress within. Virtue gives freedom because it shifts the foundation of your life from the unstable to the unshakable. When your worth is rooted in external things, you are at the mercy of fortune. But when your worth is rooted in virtue, you are untouchable. Epictetus put it simply, "You may fetter my leg, but not my will." Even a slave could be free if he lived by virtue, while a king could be enslaved if he lived for vanity. Virtue also gives strength. It is the source of resilience in adversity, the steady hand in chaos, the calm heart in loss. Virtue does not prevent pain, but it gives meaning to it. Virtue does not prevent criticism, but it shields you from being wounded by it. Virtue does not guarantee riches, but it grants the wealth of contentment. With virtue, nothing external can break you. Without virtue, even the richest possessions cannot save you. Consider Marcus Aurelius, weighed down by wars, betrayal, plague, and the crushing burden of empire. He wrote not about seeking glory, but about holding to virtue. He knew that to lose virtue was to lose everything, even if he held the world in his hands. By clinging to virtue, he found peace even in struggle. That is the paradox. When you release vanity, you gain freedom. When you pursue virtue, you gain strength. The world promises that fulfillment lies in wealth, status, or admiration. But every age has proved this a lie. Those who chase vanity are restless, never satisfied. Those who embrace virtue are calm, unshaken, and free. This is the reward. Not applause, not monuments, not fleeting fame, but the unbreakable strength of a soul aligned with what is true. The choice between virtue and vanity is rarely made in great dramatic moments. It is made in the small, quiet decisions of everyday life. Each word you speak, each thought you entertain, each action you take is a brushstroke painting the portrait of your soul. People imagine that their character is decided only in the grand crises of life. But the truth is that those moments merely reveal what has already been shaped by countless small choices. The person who flatters daily will not suddenly find courage when truth is demanded. The one who seeks applause in little things will not resist vanity when the stakes are high. Think about the choices you made today. Did you speak honestly, or did you say what you thought would win favor? Did you act with kindness when no one was watching, or did you reserve good deeds for when others could see them? Did you scroll through endless comparisons, feeding envy, or did you cultivate gratitude for what you already have? Each of these choices, small as they seem, shapes the soul toward either strength or weakness. Virtue is forged in the ordinary, just as steel is forged by countless strikes of the hammer. Vanity grows in the same soil, nourished by tiny acts of self-deception and pride. The Stoics would tell you, be vigilant. For the soul is not shaped in a single day, but over years of practice. It is easy to deceive ourselves, to think that small compromises do not matter. But every compromise is a seed, and seeds grow. Today you flatter for approval. Tomorrow you lie for advantage. Soon you do not know who you are without the mask. Or today you choose honesty in a small matter. Tomorrow you act with integrity in a greater test. Soon your soul stands firm against any storm. Life is not built in leaps, but in steps, and every step is either toward virtue or toward vanity. This is why daily practice is essential. You must ask yourself each day, what kind of soul am I building? What road am I walking, virtue or vanity? The Stoics taught that no one drifts toward virtue by accident. The current of the world pulls us always toward vanity, toward distraction, toward dependence on opinion. To resist requires intention, discipline, and training of the mind. And this training is not once in a lifetime, but every day. How, then, do we train the mind? The Stoics left us a treasury of practices to cultivate virtue and weaken the hold of vanity. One of the most powerful is the morning meditation. At the start of each day, Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that he would meet people who are selfish, rude, unjust, and ignorant. He did this not to harden his heart, but to prepare it. By anticipating the day's challenges, he trained himself to respond with virtue instead of vanity. You too can begin each morning by asking, what kind of person will I choose to be today? Will I live by principle or by appearances? Another practice is the evening reflection. At night, before sleep, the Stoics would review their actions. They would ask, where did I act with wisdom? Where did I falter? Where did I choose vanity over virtue? This honest examination is not meant for self-condemnation, but for growth. Just as an athlete studies their performance to improve, the Stoic studies the soul to strengthen it. Over time, this reflection carves the soul into the shape of virtue. Negative visualization is another tool. The Stoics would imagine losing what they cherished, wealth, health, even loved ones, not to breed despair, but to cultivate gratitude and detachment. When you imagine the loss of what vanity prizes, you loosen its hold. You begin to see that your worth does not depend on possessions or applause. By rehearsing loss, you prepare for it, and in preparing, you find freedom. Voluntary discomfort is yet another practice. Seneca advised sometimes sleeping on the ground, eating coarse bread, wearing simple clothing, and saying, "Is this what I feared?" The exercise was not about misery, but mastery. Vanity thrives when you are enslaved to comfort and appearances. By practicing simplicity, you prove to yourself that you need little. Vanity weakens, virtue strengthens. Each of these practices is a form of training, like lifting weights for the soul. Alone, each may seem small. Together, over time, they forge an inner strength that no storm can shake. The point is not perfection, but progress. Every morning, meditation, every evening reflection, every act of gratitude, every choice of simplicity over indulgence is another step away from vanity and another step toward virtue. If the choice between virtue and vanity is decided daily, then these practices are the tools by which you decide well. The crowd will always pull you toward vanity. The world will always tempt you with applause, but with training, your soul learns to resist, to stand, to choose rightly. And the more you practice, the freer you become. Throughout history, the greatest examples of human character are not found in those who chased vanity, but in those who clung to virtue even when it cost them everything. Their stories remind us that the soul is tested not by how loudly the crowd cheers, but by how firmly one stands in silence. Consider Cato the Younger, a man who lived with such devotion to principle that even Caesar, the most powerful man in the world, could not sway him. While others sought Caesar's favor, Cato chose integrity over survival. He refused to bend his knee to tyranny, knowing well it would cost him his life. In the end, he chose death over dishonor. His legacy is not of wealth or fame, but of steadfastness, a soul that could not be corrupted by vanity's glitter. Think of Socrates, who faced the fury of Athens because he refused to abandon truth. When offered the chance to save his life by abandoning philosophy, he chose instead to drink the hemlock. He was mocked by many in his day, accused of corrupting the youth, but he stood firm. His virtue outlived the scorn of his city, and his name is remembered not as a criminal, but as a teacher of wisdom and courage. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, could have drowned himself in vanity. He possessed limitless wealth, absolute power, and the adoration of his people. Yet in his private writings, he continually warned himself not to be corrupted by flattery, not to act for appearances, not to let the purple robe of power make him forget he was a man subject to the same nature as all. His legacy is not one of monuments or conquests, but of meditations, a record of a soul striving toward virtue. And these are not merely ancient tales. In our own times, there are leaders, thinkers, and ordinary people who choose integrity over gain. The whistleblower who sacrifices reputation to tell the truth. The worker who refuses to cheat, though it costs a promotion. The parent who raises a child with honesty, though the world tempts them with easier roads. These stories show us that virtue is not bound to history. It is alive wherever a soul chooses principle over vanity. These examples shine because they illuminate the contrast. Vanity is concerned with the short term, applause today, recognition tomorrow. Virtue concerns itself with eternity. And though the world often ignores or mocks the virtuous in their time, their light does not fade. It grows brighter with each passing century. The stories we honor are not of those who were admired, but of those who lived rightly. But how do we, ordinary people, resist the constant temptation of vanity? How do we confront its whispers when they come in our daily lives? The answer, the Stoics would say, lies in our inner dialogue. For the mind is the battleground where virtue and vanity wrestle, and the words we speak to ourselves decide the victor. When vanity tempts you with applause, telling you that your worth is in how others see you, you must answer, "This applause will fade, but my character remains." When vanity urges you to boast, whispering that others must know of your deeds, you must respond, "A good deed is its own witness. I do not need another." When vanity makes you fear the judgment of others, you must remind yourself, "Their judgment is not within my control. My own virtue is." This inner dialogue is a discipline. Just as an athlete trains their body through repeated movements, the Stoic trains the soul through repeated thoughts. At first it feels unnatural, for vanity has whispered in our ears for years. But with practice, the voice of virtue grows stronger. Epictetus instructed his students to rehearse these responses, to prepare themselves for temptation. He knew that in the heat of the moment the untrained mind falters, but the trained mind stands firm. You must learn to pause when vanity calls. Vanity thrives in impulsive reaction. It urges you to boast, to grasp without thought. The Stoic learns to delay, to ask, will this action strengthen my soul or weaken it? Does this arise from virtue or from vanity? In that pause lies freedom. In that pause, the chains of vanity are broken, and the soul is free to choose rightly. So train your dialogue. Confront vanity with truth. Replace its whispers with principles. Every time you do, you carve your soul deeper into the shape of virtue. And with each victory, however small, the voice of vanity grows weaker, until it is no longer a master, but a distant echo, powerless against the fortress within. Vanity always ends in emptiness. To live for appearances is to build a house of mirrors, shining on the outside, hollow within. The Stoics warned that a soul consumed by vanity becomes restless, always craving, never satisfied. At first, it seems like progress, more followers, more possessions, more recognition. But with each gain comes greater hunger. Vanity cannot fill the soul, it only deepens its thirst. What happens to the person who chooses vanity as the guiding star of life? They may rise quickly, but they fall harder. When the applause stops, they collapse into despair. When fortune shifts, they are left with nothing. Seneca wrote of men who built their lives on wealth and position, only to be destroyed when those crumbled. They lose not what is theirs, but what was never theirs to keep. Vanity tricks you into believing you own what is only borrowed. The crowd that cheers you today belongs to you no more than the weather. Worse still, vanity corrodes the soul. When you live only to be admired, you begin to abandon principle. You flatter when you should speak truth. You betray when you should stand firm. You compromise when you should resist. Slowly, you no longer know who you are apart from the mask. And when the mask finally falls, as it always does, you find that the face beneath has withered. Vanity leaves you empty, a shell of what you might have been. The Stoics often used vivid imagery to warn of this end. Vanity, they said, is like chasing shadows. No matter how fast you run, you cannot grasp them. It is like building on sand. When the storm comes, the foundation collapses. To live by vanity is to gamble your soul on things that never last. And the tragedy is not only in the loss, but in the wasted potential, the greatness that could have been forged in virtue, squandered in the pursuit of appearances. In contrast, virtue leaves a legacy that cannot be erased. The person who chooses virtue may not be admired by all, but they are respected by the wise. They may not be remembered by monuments, but their character echoes through those they touched. Socrates was executed by his city, yet his name became immortal. Marcus Aurelius was mocked in his time by flatterers who wanted more than he gave, yet today he is remembered as a philosopher king. Their fame was not their goal, but it became their reward, born not of vanity, but of virtue. And so the question must be asked, what will remain when you are gone? Vanity dies with you. Your possessions are scattered, your titles forgotten, your applause silenced. But virtue outlives the body. It remains in memory, in influence, in the quiet strength it plants in the souls of others. To live with virtue is to leave behind something eternal. To live with vanity is to vanish like smoke. The legacy of virtue is not always dramatic. It is found in the parent who raises a child with honesty, in the teacher who imparts wisdom instead of seeking recognition, in the friend who remains loyal when it costs them. These lives may never be praised by the masses, but they echo in the generations that follow. Virtue plants seeds that continue to grow long after we are gone. When Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, he often reminded his own heart of the brevity of life. He wrote that soon even the names of those who praised you will be forgotten, and their praise along with them. The only thing that endures is the soul's alignment with virtue. That is the true immortality, not statues or monuments, but the unshakable goodness that leaves an imprint on eternity. Ask yourself, when your life is weighed in the balance, what will remain? Will it be a mask, cracked and broken, the remnants of a life spent chasing vanity? Or will it be a soul that stood firm, a legacy of virtue that continues to shine? You cannot control what others say of you, nor can you command fortune, but you can choose the path of virtue, and in that choice lies a legacy that no force can erase. We return now to the image we began with, two paths before you. One lined with applause, adorned with glitter, promising ease and admiration. The other, quiet, demanding, marked by discipline and sacrifice. These are the roads of vanity and virtue. Every day you stand at this crossroads. Every thought, every word, every deed is a step toward one path or the other. The choice may seem small, but it shapes everything. Vanity offers you quick rewards, but it enslaves you to the crowd. Virtue asks for effort, but it gives you freedom. Vanity builds castles of sand that the tide will wash away. Virtue builds upon rock, firm against every storm. The Stoics taught that nothing else matters more than this choice, for it determines not what you own or how you are seen, but who you become. And who you become is your true destiny. Do not be deceived by the noise of the world. Praise will fade, fortune will shift, youth will wither, fame will vanish, but the soul you shape with your choices endures. That is why Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to live as if he had 10,000 years. Life is short, and the road is before you now. Each day wasted on vanity is a day you could have spent building the strength of virtue. The Stoics never promised that the path of virtue would be easy. They promised only that it would be worth it. To live with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance is to walk the harder road, but it is also to walk the freer road. No applause can add to your worth, no criticism can take it away, no storm can destroy the fortress built within. So the question remains, and it is not a question for tomorrow, but for this moment. Which path will you take? Will you chase the smoke of vanity, or will you forge the unshakable soul of virtue? The choice is yours, and it is made not once but again and again until your final breath. You cannot control fortune, but you can choose your response. You cannot command the crowd, but you can command yourself. You cannot decide how long you will live, but you can decide what kind of soul you will live with. Stand at the crossroads, look down both roads. One leads to emptiness, the other leads to freedom. Choose wisely, choose virtue, for in that choice you shape your soul, and in shaping your soul you shape eternity.